So you're well known, you're well known to a lot of Crips, as especially within our set, as far as putting in work. You're one of them ones. Where did you get that from? Because everybody ain't one of them ones. Everybody ain't, got that mentality that, you 100% for the set.
Yeah, I was in the heart of it, man. I was in the heart of it, where it all happened, in the dark of it. I'm talking all the graphic. Do I ever miss a block? Man, they all last. I think it's heaven at the top till it all crashed. I was functioning with the rep cause I was one of them. Look, every soldier around kept a gun on them. Everything looking for him, running up on them. I got some pictures in my mind, I could never post them. It was explosive every day, we made a show of it. Tried to get rich and died trying, had to go for it. The generation off the killer made you know of it. But it's hard to be proud when you're grown from it. The clear wrong of it seemed right then. A fraternity, your brother stay fighting for respect in a disrespectful environment. Damn, the danger in the trenches was exciting. Life is the kill, at least that's how we move. And your word went nil, had to show and prove. And the stripes we accrued was a stepping stool. The network grew, so that the investment grew. I was in the heart of it, where it all happened.
This is Gangsta-Gangsta, and I am your host, Astari Abdul Mutakum, and I'm here with my co-host,
Mr. Michael Hall, better known as the Deacon.
the Deacon, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
the Deacon.
okay. We gonna let that slide today. Quack.
You up to no good again.
All right, so here we have a very special guest. We always say our guests are special, but that's because all of our guests are special, right? So we have Bernard Cooper here with us today. Introduce yourself to the people on Gangsta-Gangsta.
No, well, I'm Bernard Cooper by name, but everybody know me as Cufuan or Baby Spike from 83rd Street. That's what everybody know me by. That's what I live by. So I'm gonna die by it.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's good to have you here today. I've been trying to get this interview with you for a long time because I feel that your message should get out. You got a very important message, a very powerful message, a message that's aimed at reaching our youth. I read most of your book, The Longest Wait, so I know a lot of this stuff, but for the viewers, so let me ask you, like during that time before, say for instance, before you started claiming a gang or got into that type of behavior, who was your influences?
Well,
Was it your dad or was it your brother or some of the older guys that you mentioned?
perhaps it probably was a little bit of both. Like in my household, my mom's was real strict. So my brothers that was turning 18, if they ain't had no bread, they was out. So my older brother that I did look up to, Ephraim, he had went into the service.
Mm-hmm.
So all I had, and also I stayed at Grandma Dunn's house, which is my G homie Big Chris family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always a part of the element, but it wasn't until I got of age. Well, when I got 12, 13 years old, having to start school at Horace Mann, did I learn what, the dynamics of what happened to my sister Kelly, what I'm saying, which is my little nephew's mother that was just right here. You feel me? And so once I learned that, and being chased home from Horace Mann, of course, so I needed to understand why these dudes were chasing me home at that point, like what the hell happened over there,
Right.
So, but once I learned what happened, that's when I entered into it. I went around the corner, got put on by Happy and a little dude named Brat. Brat was the youngest dude around. He used to go to the South with us, but he was just a cool cat. What I'm saying? So I ended up getting down with him in front of Happy and Lil Chris. On 84th, but after that, that pretty much instilled a hate in me that I didn't realize that I had in me. Learning about my sister, seeing the scars on her, so in her telling me, bits and pieces, trying to get me to understand why these kids didn't chase me home from Horace Mann. I need to know. We hear about it as kids, but you don't know the dynamics of this business like that. you know, especially back then. So, you know, going to entering Horseman was, you know, was a little eye opener. So I needed to understand what it was, and just so happened Kelly was the one who told me a little bit about the history between Trey Gangsters and Roller 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much set me on a course from that point on. I never was going to YAs or camps or nothing like that. So, you know, my whole time out here was to that end.
All right. So you're well known, you know, you were well known to a lot of Crips, especially within our set, as far as putting in work. You know, you're one of them ones, you know. Where did you get that from? Because everybody ain't one of them ones. Everybody ain't, you know, got that mentality that, you know, you're 100% for the set.
Well, I think, you know, growing up, man, once I learned, you know, coming to St. Andrews and being in the field there, I had a G homie one time that told us his name was Booker Red, Big Booker Red, and he told me, man, if you're not doing this for the love of the soil, then what are you doing? Don't you might as well go home now. You know what I mean? So because some of y'all gonna die, some of y'all gonna go to jail, so you might as well make a decision now what you doing it for. You know, and back then you thinking that, you know, you joining the army and shit, like, you know, like we need to defend this from these niggas over here, whatever, you feel me? Or, you know, so you come in there, and then that mixed with learning what happened with my sister, you know, that hate was instilled in me at that young age like that, to where, okay, that's what it is, you know, but overall, you know, the dynamics was changing at the same time, because everybody was taking sides. Either you was turning neighborhood, or you was turning gangsters, or you was turning Trey Times or something like that. So, you know, I looked at it as being a soldier, you know, for the soil right here. You know what I'm saying? So I would have did anything in my power to defend it against the enemies that came in, because I've seen a lot. You know, I've seen a lot as a kid. I watched my G homie Tick die on 85th down the street from my house and shit. You feel me? Like I watched. I was a kid when Trey Ball died. You know, like, so I know the trauma, but, you know, I didn't have nothing to channel that trauma. All we knew was what was given to us. Now, you know, and it took a long time for me to really see what the truth is about the whole business, and how, you know, I was misled from the overall picture of this cripping. So my generation coming in at that time in 1985, we was coming into something that was already established from the generations before us, that didn't have the capacity or the frame of mind to conflict resolve. Even after the first murders, you could, you know, stay over there, we stay over here, right? That didn't happen. Instead, we matched each other. So the time my generation came, we so passionate, and at the same time, it's the cracker. So we having cars and money and big guns at 15, 16 years old. So the passion came with it. You know, a lot of shit you see today is because that generation set it off.
Scarface came out of it.
Oh yeah. So you had from both sides, you know, I attest to my rivals as well. Like it was going on. It wasn't no, you know, and there's no winners in it, you know. But I think in the end, that's when I found out that, you know, what it is. So, but that's how I pretty much started out, man. And it wasn't, you know, and I wasn't gonna stop, you know, until I was dead, or until what happened, which is, you know, they removed me from the streets and wrongfully convicted me and sentenced me to 45 years of life.
So what about that? Once you got locked up, was wrongly convicted, now you're in prison, you still maintain that mindset as far as 100% pushing for a Trey Gangster, doing whatever it takes for the set. Why was you still on that at that time?
Well, you know, pretty much my reputation preceded me. You know what I mean? So when I got to prison, you know, I was amongst the likes of Big Crazy D and Big Diamond and you know, Big Jesse and you know, Lil Mac and you know, so you know, they already was welcoming me in. You know what I mean? So I began my training in. You feel me on that level, and I've always been the type of cat that uh, I'm gonna take what's good out of you. What I see out of you, I'm gonna take what's good and put it in my pocket. But if you got foulness in you, I'm gonna let you have that. You know what I mean? But if you know, just you just couldn't be foul within 8 trays. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when I was raised in prison, you know, my G homie Legs Diamond, you know, told me when I first entered prison that, you know, and nobody's above the G. As long as you do what you're supposed to do to uphold, you know, the honor of 83rd, then everybody else around you supposed to do what they do, and you stand on that. So, you know, I got that early. So by the time I left them and ventured out on myself, I was already groomed and shit. So I just continued to, you know, to press what my G's that still in me within the prison system. And that's why I stayed on level 4s my whole life. You know what I mean? Because you know, but and I had to come to an understanding to get to where I am today. You know, and it took some things to happen for me to be able to see the light. But at the same time, being in prison and being amongst, you know, rivals such as, you know, Run and you know, the dudes from 60s that, you know, I battle with out here on these streets. To see them there, we all together, you know, shaking hands and exchanging coffee and numbers and all these things for years, like different dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like I never had a fight in prison with a rival. Right? So that was something that I had to be showed as well, because when I entered prison, I still had the street mentality. So when I entered prison, you know, I didn't want to shake hands and do all that until my G homies pulled me in the circle and told me that business. And they told me that business. I understood then that I wasn't above the G shit, like, you know. So I began to you know, embrace that, you know what I mean, like resolving issues, like when stuff come up between us in the roller 60s or in prison it's the late neighborhood car, and so you know how to go. But so I started coming into those positions, and at the same time, you know, I uphold the laws of 83rd, you know. So you know, if I done something to you or had something done to you or you know, it was only because I was, you know, you was wrong, and the rule says you was wrong. So that's probably if I stabbed you in prison or had you stabbed or did any of that, you know, believe me, it was only because you violated the rules of the business, because that's how they raised me in prison, you know.
Okay. I want to ask you about how did you get to a point where you felt that this gang or the Crippin' or A-Trays wasn't that important to you anymore?
Well, it's always been important to me. Like it's still important to me. It's just that my last assault in prison, I saw somebody doing a ride, but it was that one right there, and seeing that individual come into the hole, you know, after being passed up and everything, caused me to really look at myself, you know, because I know that's not who my mama raised. My mama didn't raise me to take a knife and bust on people like that, right? So I started to dig into myself, looking at like, okay, I went from street wars, you know, battling my rivals, fighting my rivals, riots with my rivals, you know, popping guns, you know, and now I've entered into this right here where I'm about my people, and I'm willing to stab a motherfucker to death for my people, because we won. So I had to look at myself, and I vowed a nonviolent approach to things at that point. You know what I mean? When I did my shoe, stayed in the shoe, you know, my 15 months, but that whole time to get to understand, that's where I wrote the book, Cufuan, The Longest Way, that because I needed to understand where I went left instead of right. Like, why didn't I continue to the traits that my mother was trying to instill in me? Like, why did I go? So that's pretty much what the book about, and it pretty much ends up being about my mother's struggle to keep me from going to prison. So I vowed non-violence, sat in the shoe, you know, receiving letters from my mama thinking I'm never coming home because, you know, they talking about charging me with this one and all this stuff like that. So, you know, I really had to do some soul searching on it.
Did you become conflicted?
Yeah, I became conflicted, you know, like what, you know, what am I doing?
Right.
You know what I'm
I mean,
saying?
As far
Like,
as like, because at one time you was pushing the violence, now you...
now I'm aiming to end the violence,
Right.
right? So, but it came to that from that point right there, you know. But what made me change, what made me retire from active duty in prison was, you know, from that, I end up back at the same yard. So when the tension came back up, you know, they removed me, and I was at the point of proving my innocence at that point, working 2 years in the law library when they removed me. So I sat back there in the hole for 90 days, you know, and it was then that God talked to me then, you know, and he said, you can't continue to be the one, you know, like the kids on the streets need you. They don't need you here no more because your ways of doing things was outdated in prison. I started seeing that. While I said stab, they said fight. So I knew that my way of doing things was outdated. So I knew I had to really, and it's the hardest decision that I ever had to make was when I had to write that letter to y'all, to my big homies and shit, call Big Spikes, you know, and let them know that I was retiring from active duty. I ain't going nowhere. I'm finna figure out how to get out of prison because the people on the street need me.
How did you feel about that though? Was you feeling like you gonna lose homies? Was you feeling like you gonna lose
I was
friends?
worried about what everybody was gonna think, you know what I'm saying? And but I knew that I was at the top of my game at that point, you know what I mean? I stood strong and honorable for 83rd as a representative of 83rd my whole life in prison, you know what I'm saying? For all on the streets. So I got that, I'm like, man, if I'm gonna do it, because to continue on means I'm finna conflict with my own, because the only people that can turn me in is my own.
Right.
So I knew coming out of that hole what the order was gonna be.
At that point, you knew who you was.
I knew who I was. I would not, you know, before I came out of there and attacked my own on some assumptions, I'ma retire. And I wrote that letter, told everybody, you know, nobody's under my call no more. I'm not taking no calls no more. I'm finna figure out how to get out right here, you know. And it was a hard walk because I ran into some, you know, ran into one of my best friends, Big J-Lo, you know,
Right.
and you know, and had to look him in his face, tell him, I'm retired, right? I'm retired, dog. You feel me? Like, I'm not, you know, if it's black on black, it ain't me.
Right.
Everything else, I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. But
I remember that time, and I remember all the talk going on around it, and you know, you had your haters, and you had
yeah,
people that was encouraging you and stuff like that.
yeah, man.
Was that a difficult time for you?
Yeah, it was, you know, I pretty much just left it in God's hands, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew what I had to do there. It hadn't been done on the level 4 yards like that, you know. So I knew that I had to do more than what the level 3s and stuff was doing. Before, and at the same time, I knew that I had to have something in the court, you know, to prove my innocence. So all this stuff started coming back, you know. At that time, you know, witnesses came forward, said what the police did, and, you know, that, you know, I don't even know these people, but they've come forward, and I still got audio tapes right now that's saying what they did to remove me. So once I got that, I pretty much, you know, I started telling people, I said, I'm finna get the fuck out of prison, you know, and I learned through the law library, the options that I had, because I wasn't going to go into I had been boycotting the parole board since 2007, you know, because I ended up catching the knife, catching the sticking, and so I wasn't going to go in there and allow them to hit me with the 15 years. So I kept putting them off all the way to 2010. 2010, I put him off, and he called me in. He said, Mr. Cooper, I see you got 2 big files right here. You pretty much dug yourself a pretty big grave here, right? He said, but what I do see is that you got your GED, you know, you got vocational masonry, you got carpentry, you know, you got a couple of self-help classes. So all you gotta do is give us some clean time, and you do know that we letting people out. So at the same time, I got word that Big Spike was out, and when I entered the prison, I already told myself that I'm never getting out until I see my G's get out. They started that gangster shit, right? Yeah. But then he got out. When he got out, that affected me too, because he told me like, you do, you know. So I'm on it, but I left out of there and fucked up anyway. But when I fucked up that time, is the one that really caught me, like, okay, this is what they talking about and shit, you know what I'm saying? Disrespecting staff, you know what I'm saying? Excessive contacts in the visiting room, like, you know, just doing me and shit, you know? And but it was then that it dawned on me, so I knew that I needed to get to work, and I had a tall order against me, because I had everything in my file you could think of. You know, I built it the way I built it. So, you know, but once I got it, you know, it was a cakewalk. You know, I had to dump some people on their head a month before I went to the board, but God blessed me then and said that, you know, I had one of them asshole CEOs came up and said this and wasn't involved. I don't know what, you know, it was God, you know. I'm like, yeah. So the next month, you know, I went in there, man, and I was prepared, you know, to do battle, even though I got denied. But it was the denial that, you know, that set me up, you know, for where I needed to be, which made me create the programs that I created.
So when people change, right? Normally it's a process, right? And then that one thing, that light bulb goes off, and then there's a process, or there's a process that started before the light bulb went off. Like, so where you book some cat on the line, you in the hole, you see them, and then you like, damn, man, like, you like basically saying, man, I'm a freaking animal, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
I know I get it. I kind of happened to me.
Right.
Like, so you like, damn, like, man, something's wrong with me. Like, what the hell, man?
Right.
Because it was probably too normalized, and you like, and you looked at it like, damn, man, is that who I want to be? Now, had that started before that moment, had you ever had those kind of thoughts, or
No.
That was the moment that started those thoughts?
No, you know, for that particular one right there, you know, I was on some rebound shit because I had missed a ride in High Desert. So once the ride kicked off, I knew I need to clean my hands. So that's what that was about. But then once I got in the shoe, I realized that, hey, you know what? You know what's going on with you? That ain't how your mama raised you. You right? So that's what made me really look at things, like, you know, because Dad had ate me up, you know, for the couple years I was. Not that I was in violation or nothing, because it just wasn't one of those things. But the fact that I know that I was there at you know, I'm like, I need to get mine back. So
we done all been there.
I didn't get to get it. I didn't get to get mine.
So. We can't wait for the next one.
Y'all can't wait for the next one. So I'm gonna do mine and get on, and everybody can deal with what's going on. Holler at me in the kite somewhere down the line. Send me a soup or something. However you need to do it. But you know, but that's what it was. So that's what made me sit down in that shoe, man, and start writing, man, and coming into myself, man, and after I got denied parole, I sat back and listened to all the things that the DA said, listened to all the things that the commissioner said, you know, before they denied me, you know, and they said that, you know, I didn't have enough showing to show that what I was doing about my gang addiction. So that's where Gang Affiliates and Criminal Offenders Recovery Program came from. So I had to sit down and really put that together.
Did you believe them? Like when they said what they said about you at the moment, like they giving you denial, because most people, they come back and they like, oh, these dudes was tripping. Did you believe them at the moment, or did it take some time to sink in? Like, wait a minute, I do got to address some of these things people are talking about.
Well, for me, I looked at it as a victory, because the bullshit attorney that I had, who tried to tell me to say I was doing all these things that I wasn't out here doing, because I wasn't robbing people, I wasn't beating people up. I rivaled with my rivals. So I went, I fired her and pretty much took it on my own, and went in there addressed. So I took it as a victory, because she was saying that for sure with my fouls like that I was gonna get at least a 7, at the least, if they don't hit me with a 15. So I'm like, okay. So, I ended up going in and representing myself, and at that second one, I even had the DA, agreeing that I was going to come back and do what I was telling them that I was going to come right back here and do. They said, well, normally we'll tell people not to even go back to where it came from. He's like, but we believe that you're going to go back and do exactly what you're saying. That came from the DA who previously was fighting for me to stay in.
And the program you were referencing that you created, what's it called?
It's called Affiliates and Offenders Recovery Program. That's gang affiliates and criminal offenders recovery program. And what we do well, and also I have emotional awareness support. Emotional awareness support, dealing with a lot of things that we go through within that lifestyle. And we have our drug and alcohol awareness support group, all of which addresses the causative factors of our gang, bully, and criminal thinking. Like, what was going on in your life? Why do you hate your enemies? Why did you get involved in this? I know why I got involved in this. I know what happened. I know where my hate came from. I know what happened. So I was able to reach into that and address those issues before I got here. And that's what this program does, is helps everybody address those issues before you get here. I created that maybe 4 years ago. That's when I created an extension to these programs with my Inside Community Ambassadors program. So I have ambassadors from every hood and every race, from Pelican Bay to Ironwood, that take this program and have successfully come home. We have 20 lifers that have come home thus far, that have addressed these causative factors, within their lives, so that you can address it and heal from them, and then begin to heal others. Because that's the only way we're gonna get up out of the mess is understanding the trauma that we placed on ourselves, that we lived through. There's no winners in the game, so only thing we're doing is trying to re-educate the people. Just like with the guys from Roller 60s, man, that I'm partnering with, towards addressing the juvenile halls and addressing different outlets with the possibilities of what happens in the end. We are the possibilities of what happens in the end. You feel what I'm saying? Because we came from hating each other right here to being in them prisons together, having to stick together. So 2 + 2 is 4. So why not teach that here right now, and teach about non-aggression agreements, or teach about new rules of engagement for each other out here on these streets, so that the people as a whole can survive. Because there's no winners in the business whatsoever. You may be winning this month or that month, but next month you may not be winning. We all take losses with the people that are dying from it, these families, these mothers.
As well as the people that's getting locked up.
So it's trauma all around the board, while the system sit back, and do what they do to pick us off in the same process.
Now you were talking about trauma in your childhood, and I remember that time. I remember I'm a product of '84 too. Like I was that's where I got put on, and I remember that time with your sister. I remember that being a thing, so I have to imagine that's a trauma that stuck with you, right? And we talk about this on Gangsta-Gangsta, these pre-gang banging traumas, right? Like in our childhood that ultimately kind of form us into or lead us into a where, because we don't deal with them, particularly in the African American community. We don't deal with a lot of
Right.
the mental health
we don't
issues
process
and
it.
the trauma. We don't process
We don't
it.
seek it.
Right. And so I mean, I guess this is a personal question. Did you were you able to have any interventions after that issue with your sister?
No. The only intervention I had was getting busy. Like that's there only wasn't no intervention. It was just
That's how you
was
was able to
because at the
release it.
time, if you look at the time zone right there, man, you still had my big homie Joker's issue
Right.
on the table. When I came along, we still I know the trauma of my sister, so that's still in my community. So we took some trauma that really fucked everybody up. And so we never seek help for it, even all the way to myself being shot 3 times in the chest, back in the arm. So that trauma continues on, and then seeing one of my mentors and big homies killed in the street, it pretty much spiraled everything. All these different things came and hit me at that time, and to the point to where I didn't give a fuck about getting caught. I didn't give a fuck about being more strategic. I didn't give a fuck about nothing. I don't care who you was, come on, and that type of thing is what led me to be arrested and charged with these murders, and ultimately wrongfully convicted, based on police corruption. So my trauma had continued throughout my prison system, all the way through. Like I had become pretty much isolated, cutting off my feelings, because my family, my friends had left me. I was able to count on one hand the friends that I did have, that stayed down the whole time. But you had to cut all that off, especially you had cellies that get pictures, from their family. They want you to bask in they glory for a minute, but you're really tore up inside because you ain't heard from your family in 15 years. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the trauma was real. But it's both a blessing and a curse. Because I don't have no feelings today. Like I only feel what I feel. So. It's hard out here to adjust to shit, because I'm still traumatized. Why I stay lonesome the way I do, because I'm still traumatized. I still ain't been in now store nothing out here. So, you know what I'm saying? I stay away till it's time for me to come in here, and I got to be, because I'm still living in the same time as I left, but I'm not. But I hold on to my sobriety. That's the only difference, that I'm in sobriety. That's my addiction. That lifestyle's addiction. That's where this comes from. Is the lifestyle addiction. And being able to address those issues. Because I know I got the issue, but the world don't realize that they got an issue. With the lifestyle.
And so, speaking of lifestyle, so you grew up in a household. I remember Chris' house. Chris' house, that was a spot. That was everybody hung out at that spot. Everybody was there back in that garage. That was the spot. I always thought Daphne was Chris' sister. Like,
no,
I don't know. To this day, I learned that today.
I know Daphne.
Literally, I learned today that's like, okay, but I thought that was a sister. But that household had people who were deeply connected to gangbanging. They were like deeply connected to ETG. So that would have had an effect on you being in that household. You would have seen, even as a child, all the people coming over there and doing all the stuff that was going on over there.
Yeah, low riders and everything.
The whole life, right? The low riders, everything. So how would that? So when you're creating your program, do you account for that too? That notion that environment is going to help shape these children's lives?
Yes, absolutely. my program is all from, it's from me. So, those are some of the most essential things that, that I address, because that's where the passion came from, because that's what, that we was family. When I came to play baseball at St. Andrews, this was family. It was a trays all through the park, and kids and everything, and my mother out here, making hot dogs and stuff like that, so, we was family, and we love it, and that's all I cared about. Like, all I cared about, was this family out here, you know what I mean? Even ostracizing myself from my own family, my brothers, and my sisters, my sister now was on drugs, and my older brother Pepper was on drugs, so they see me in the streets. But my other brothers, we was distant, because, all I knew was the street life, you know what I mean?
Which is crazy, because I took this course, and it addressed all that what you just said about ostracizing yourself from the rest of your family, when you talk about that normal way of thinking, as opposed to when did you break away from that and start going to that negative way of thinking and stuff. It's all in there.
Yes, it's all in there, man. And and the ideal is to help us, address the issue. It's not a matter of you being a gang member or not. It's about addressing the issue. Know why you a gang member. Know why you decide to do what you do. And my biggest thing is that, it is being able to channel your rage and violence. Like, all wars ain't worth fighting no more, right? So if you having beef with a motherfucker in over a year, 2 years, then you really don't got a beef with them. You know what I mean? So those are the times that you're supposed to establish some type of communication, some type of agreement, some type of non-aggression agreement, to where if I see you, you see me, the rule is to nod your head. I don't care what ally is with you. All the sinners get beat upside your own head, right? And you battle with those that battle against you. You feel me? Because it's fruitless. It's fruitless to continue the same path that was shown to us in the early days from kids who didn't have the presence of mind to conflict resolve. They didn't know no better. Only knew was match it or do better than it. They dropped one, we dropped three. And after a while, the generations come along. By the time my generation come along, here you have it. We got 15, 16-year-old driving lowriders to horseman and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like kids, like we in the real sense, but we live in grown man ways. You know what I'm saying? In the other side as well. Like they more than us. They had motherfuckers 14 years old up at horseman and shit with regals and shit. You feel me? So that was appealing to the generations and shit, to mix that with the raps and shit and all that shit, and nobody's talking about solutions in the raps. But you promoting the bullshit. So when you promoting the bullshit in your raps, the people is still, because they glorifying it. They glorifying, but you ain't with none of that. But you glorifying that. So we all come up like that. You feel me? And so our program is to be able to address these issues. I would like for other communities, other hoods, to tap in and let me and let's train your people as well. You know what I mean? Like, let's build facilitators, man. Each one teach one, just like we did in prison. Because there's no losers in that business.
So how can people do that? How can people who want to they say, look, I need to change, or I need to try to find a program that's going to help me get somewhere into a better place? How can they get to that program that you created? What's the mechanism to get there and utilize it?
Well, all they have to do is tap in, man, through any of the outlets. Through we have a website at www.AFFOFFRECPG3W at .com.
Okay, say that hella slow.
AFF. It's the acronyms for Affiliates and Offenders Recovery Program. So it's a AFF, OFF, RECPG.com.
Okay.
And other than that, you can catch me on social media at Bernard K. Cooper and on Instagram at the same name. And the message, it is appealing to all, not only in California, but across the state, across the country, because everybody adapted what Crips and Bloods is doing, have done here. And it's all over the place. You got people that's throwing up gang signs that I made up when I was 15. All in these other states, you know what I mean? And then but nobody's talking about, exactly what it is, and how we fix it. We already know that we can kill each other. We know that for a fact. We hate each other. When you see another brother, you have to talk him down by, trying to greet him and everything, because they so, we've been so prone to hate our kind that I see that out here, as opposed to coming from where I come from, where we greet each other, and we look out for each other. We have genuine concern for each other. But out here, I don't see that. I don't see that genuine concern. And then you have a lot of old cats that's out here, and they're amongst the active, but you won't say nothing to save their lives and shit. So I take issue with that too a lot of times while I'm out here, because only thing I want to do is spread the truth about what it is. I can't take Baby Spike away. I can't take that 83rd. I can't take St. Andrews away from me. You know what I'm saying? It's all it's there. I can't take that back.
Yeah.
However, how do we fix it? How do we change the page? We've been on the same page for 50 years, and I'm not finna go out here and tell none of my little homies nothing wrong. I'm not finna go tell them to go do nothing. Only best thing I can tell my little homies, battle with those who battle with you. If you ain't had no problems with niggas, you need to leave them people alone. You understand what I'm saying? So if we not bothering you, don't bother us. You feel me? That's the message, but that's in all these communities, but we need others to be able to say it as well. These John Gottis of these communities and shit, they have to say it as well. Because for a fact that your hood ain't beef with these dudes over here in 10 months. So why act like you still feel that way when you really don't? So we all have to, for the benefit of the whole people as a whole, we have to come to terms, with the trauma, come to terms with what happened, come to terms with what is. We've all lost people. I've lost people. I've even lost people at the hands of my own people. I've lost people at the hands of the police. So I got all three of those elements I faced already. You know what I'm saying? And I still had a peace in my heart. I still had no hate because I understand what's happening. We've been doing the same thing for 50 years. You got dudes out here, they got kids and grandkids out here right now. But you probably tell your grandkids something at home, but you won't embrace your family, because we family. In all these communities, you family over there, man. So why would you want to continue to tell your child to go out here and do this or do that when you knowing that the end result is going to result in this, and you're going to be there with the same people who you went over there to do this with, and you can't do none of that. You can't say nap this, or you can't say tramp that. Nowhere on level 4 yard in prison. I've been there 25 years straight and 5 years on parole. I know that in those settings, you're not gonna say that. But you get people who act like they will, and those are the ones that I wait to hear about if you ever call me collect, I'm gonna put it to the test. Yeah. I'm gonna have you yell out in that day room.
Yeah.
Say it
no,
now.
they say it in they cell, but they don't say it no.
Don't say it loud. I want you to be in the day room, right? I said I want you to yell out whatever that is, right? Do that and let me and see if you stay on the phone with me for the whole 15 minutes. Is all I'm saying.
Right.
So we know this here. This is not new, man. It's thousands of cats that just got out of prison, and you know for a fact that you wasn't in prison doing that. So why come out here and fool these kids that you doing it? That's all I'm saying. I'm not finna fool them like I'm not finna tell them to do none of that shit. Why? Because I know at the end of the day, where you gonna get to. There's no statute of limitations on murders. And when they get their hands on you, you're gonna be right there with the same roller 60s or the same ones you yelling this shit about. And you can't do nothing. Because if you do, the same person that buried the marks as you is gonna stab you for them. And you're gonna be a show on the yard. It's called movie fees. That's what we call it in the prison, you know? If we gonna clear this debt right here, those are movie fees. He don't owe you nothing after this. Once we plug him, he don't owe you nothing. Those are movie fees. We finna put this show on for you, right? But that's what had instilled the discipline throughout the prison system, and still today, the brothers in there are still standing strong, because you got to go into that system and be educated as there. But a lot of you won't make it back. When we did what we did, we was kids in the literal sense. These kids out here are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. You ain't gonna make it back like we did, not strong and honorable. You ain't gonna make it back, because So why not teach it right here, right now? Let them get the understanding of it, and maybe they can make better decisions when you're out here in the field. Or maybe the person next to them can tell them, because we supposed to each one teach one. It's the only way we gonna be able to change and bring forth a new generation of us as a people. If we don't, we're gonna continue to see what we're seeing, which is a lot of people on drugs, a lot of people throwing up gang signs to nobody in particular, but just because, right? You got people out there committing bullshit crimes, going back and forth to jail. The same fucking cycle. Like, everybody has embraced the ideal of nothingness. You feel what I'm saying? Where all the motherfuckers in prison that did 25, 30 years, you dreaming of what this life could be like out here, while you motherfuckers is out here stuck on bullshit. And we have to change that, so that's why I'm here, is to try to change that in.
How do you change that narrative as far as with these older guys? Some of these older guys are putting out as far as being tough, continuing down that cycle, that negative cycle. How do you change that narrative to the positive narrative that you're trying to push?
Well, you got older cats, man, who like the little brother out here right now just told me that he's working, man, and I've inspired him to work and stuff like that, so it's not too old to learn things. It's too old to teach an old dog new tricks, but it's not too late to learn things. And it starts through educating yourself, understanding what it is, that we're doing, or understanding it is that you're doing, or why you doing it, right? Because we all go through that. Like, I battle with my addiction every day, because of the things that I see, the things that I know, the information that I get, but I know that my sobriety and my commitment to myself, it means more to me than what I can potentially do that can cause more destruction than anything. Then guess what? I'm not here no more. I can't be here for my loved ones' families who died out here in these streets. I've been through that. I left, and I wasn't here for the families that I went and did that for. Everybody else was on the pit. I'm gone. But it's just like, and that's what everybody means when they say play chess, not checkers, because in the game of chess, you have to be strategic, man. You have to, you have to protect your queen. You have to protect your pieces. Whereas in checkers, you can look up and see those 3 spaces, and you're gonna hit those spaces because you want those 3 pieces. But at the end, when that piece right there that made those jumps, when they land, what happens to that piece? It get removed. Somebody jump him. He off the board. He don't get to, unless somebody come bail him out, he don't get to hit the board no more. Right? So, it's about playing chess. It's about trying to bring understanding to, what it was, what the cripping was, like those generations early in the early days. They knew each other. They was friends. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them are friends today. They've been friends. It's just that the chosen few within both sides kept all that going. But it's a lot of them dudes that's been friends ever since. We just didn't get that memo. Right?
Right.
So it's really just I'm not introducing nothing that wasn't already there. So everybody can look at me crazy if you want to, but everybody was already friends. You was already fucking with each other. You already going to jail and shit together. Right? Conflict arose. Nobody's mature enough to resolve the conflict. That's all. We just generations that passed through something that was already done because kids wasn't able to do that. We can't continue to keep that mentality. It's 50 years. Them dudes was kids back then. They 70 right now. We can't continue to keep that mantra. We gotta come with new mantra for the new generation. So that if we do it, then the world gonna do it. If the world do it, then America has to take notice, man.
Yeah.
You have to take notice. You have to take it serious now. You have to take it serious when you kill us in the streets. You have to take it serious. The police won't shoot us like that. They won't shoot us like that because they know we together. If you do that, all these motherfuckers gonna act up. But if we don't got that, then they continue to kill us in the streets without impunity.
So when, with the work you're doing now, when will you feel that you are making a difference? I already know you feel you're making a difference
No,
now.
I don't feel like I'm making a difference.
You're making a difference. You are making
Everybody
a difference.
tell me I'm making a difference, but I don't see the difference. I don't see nothing. I
So
see
what would that
deterioration.
look like for you? What would that look like for you?
What would it look like for me? It is for warring communities to be able to open up conversation about non-aggression agreements. Parks and recs off limits. Libraries off limits. Whatever you're gonna do in the street, y'all do it in the streets. But if we come to an understanding that you're not supposed to do nothing.
So it's about limiting that gang space.
It's about limiting the violence that's attached to the games because you don't think you winning because you're not. So we all lose. We all got people that got killed. So don't blame that. What would Willie do? Willie turning over in his grave? No, he not. He probably saying, what happened? You know what I'm saying? While I'm dead, everybody's still living. So come on, tell me about. We all got that. So, but we can't do the same thing. Everything has to evolve, dog. Everything has to come into a new space. And all I'm saying is that a new generation, is possible through these measures, dog. You feel me? We can't continue the same course. We've been done that. You got people who really hate their rivals so much, man, that they can continue on. But when they get their hands on you, you're going to be right there with them. So do the math. That's all I'm saying. Just look at the math. And how can we come to some conclusions? I do what I do here because I want you dudes to be together. I don't want to see my little homies fighting each other and doing all that, man. I'd rather see you bonding right here, man. You know what I'm saying? And get some of the resources, man, that we have to offer. Try to get some jobs. Let's bring some entrepreneurs in here to teach you things. You feel me? So that's what I'm about here, and I would like to attest to the ambassadors that come back to go to your community and do the same. They're doing some great things over there on the east side with Pastor Chef and them, in mobilizing those communities over there, you know, and we have, you know, we're trying to establish that over here, right now we have projects with a couple of cats from Roller 60s, but it's not about calling peace or nothing. It's merely about educating the new generation through these curriculums, you know. So they, the Crenshaw district as well will have access to facilitating the same message over in their community, as well as other communities that want to tap in just to teach, you know, teach your young man about what it is, man, and teach him about making right decisions. Teach him about the consequences of not thinking. You know, these we have to re-educate the whole platform. We have to re-educate everybody, and it's not going to happen if there's no communication.
Right.
You know.
Well, we're going to end on that note. Mr. Bernard Cooper, better known to many as Baby Spike. That's a positive note. If you want to talk about where they can get the longest wait and how they can log on to these programs, you can talk about that. Get that information so we can air it. That way they'll be able to see it.
Yes, absolutely. You can order programs through AFFOFFRECPG.com for in-prison programs, correspondence programs. You can also tap in to get one-on-one programming through any of these programs right here, through one-on-one through email at AFFOFFRECPG3W@gmail.com. We request one-on-ones. We request that referrals. So anybody that sent that this can help you with or help you with court, we're recognized by BPH, California courts, probation, and every other outlet that's out here. We are very recognized throughout the prison system, from Pelican Bay to Ironwood. So, and also you can get Cufuan, The Longest Wait, the book. It's available on Amazon. Cufuan, The Longest Wait.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, bro. Good interview. Good stuff, man.
Excellent.
You know, the kids need to hear this stuff, man, you know?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, man, you know, to all these other communities as well, man, you know, if we're not bothering you, don't bother us, though. you know what I'm saying? Like, and let's come to communication, man, so we can address the age-old issues that we have, man. That's the only way that, as a people, that we're gonna be able to survive this, man. So, you know, non-aggression agreements to everybody, man.
All right. All right, thank you for coming to Gangsta-Gangsta. We really appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. I was in the heart of it, man. I was in the heart of it, where it all happened, in the dark of it. I'm talking all the graphics. Do I ever miss a block? Man, they all lasted. I think it's heaven at the top till it all crashed. I was functioning with the rep cause I was one of them. Look, every soldier around kept a gun on them. Everything looking for them, running up on them. I got some pictures in my mind, I could never post them. It was explosive every day, we made a show of it. Tried to get rich and died trying, had to go for it. The generation of the killer made you know of it. But it's hard to be proud when you're grown from it. The clear wrong of it seemed right then. A fraternity of brothers stay fighting.